Hey everybody, welcome back to our awesome usually but sometimes over the summer maybe schedule falters a little bit. We get our Nerdletter preview. What do we call that? What do we call
It's
this?
a
The
Nerdletter talk. That's
Nerdletter
official
talk.
marketing
I
term.
don't I don't know why I can never remember like
You should you
that.
should visit our YouTube channel sometimes yourself.
I mean,
Uh,
hey, some of the views on our videos are my views of them, so that's but
we-
like yeah, it doesn't stick in my head.
Thank
It's
you, thank
I
you for your viewership, Paul.
I'm a contributing member to our social media empire.
Sweet, 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 sweet.
So what we do is we boring enterprise nerds, we have a newsletter that comes out every 2 weeks, except sometimes in summer it's a little hazy. Um, and we just sit down, me and Yelena just sit down and talk about the various things that we're going to write about in that newsletter. So I'm going to jump in first. I've got 4 or 5 different things that I want to just sort of mention my thought process for kind of what I'm thinking about and why I want to write about that stuff. So I'll share
Awesome.
my screen, share my browser window. So first up, I don't know if you saw this. You remember this was a little while ago. I wrote
Oh, do
about
yeah.
Odoo, yeah,
Yeah.
which is the open source um,
ERP
ERP
or yeah.
software. So they have kind of this core offering of like an of open source, and then they have this sort of like you can pay them to host it and do further enhancements and that kind of stuff. Um, and since I went back and looked, I wrote about them in September of 2022. And since then, they've continued to grow really well. And so here is an announcement of further large investment in Odoo's continued growth. So I want to look at both the investment itself and some of the other things that have kind of gone on since we last wrote about them. Because to me, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm really interested to see. I mean, you and I both know that we know SAP the best in
Mm-hmm.
terms of how the big ERP companies do their thing and how kind of their model for delivery, their model for all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I really truly believe that like having that market space, have multiple different approaches to how you kind of do business is really healthy for everybody involved. And
Mm-hmm.
Odoo is, of course, very different than SAP. SAP is not open source, and which makes sense for their style. But I just want to see and continue to look at how ERPs that are not SAP do their thing. And so they've got, I mean, their blog highlights them winning Enterprise Application Innovator of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
This has happened since we talked about them. They have a big conference, kind of like the
Ooh.
Odoo version of Sapphire or TechEd or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I didn't register. It's in Belgium, so I probably won't go. But like look at that. There's thousands of participants, lots of exhibitors. Like
Wow.
it's a thing, you know what I mean? And I just was completely unaware of it. So at least for me, that's one of the things I want to sort of dive back in and kind of do an Odoo update in the newsletter for this stuff.
Sweet. So someone read your story and they decided to invest in Odoo, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good,
that's
good,
right. Hey,
good,
that's
good
right.
for them.
Yes. I hereby take full credit for all of the explosive growth since September
Yep.
2022.
Since
And I
it
expect my
yeah, got
dividend check in the mail.
highlighted,
Yeah.
highlighted in our newsletter, and boom, like phase 3 profit. Sweet, sweet, sweet,
the,
sweet.
the ticket to viral right there.
Yep.
Um so and so like I said, I've got 4 or 5 things that I've highlighted, and we do 3 stories per issue. So some of this stuff might be saved for later or whatever.
Mm.
I also was going out and I kind of go through my list of I use Feedly to organize my various news feeds and that kind of stuff. And I saw this pop up. This is one of those we've covered some other surveys, like vendor surveys and stuff in the past on various topics. Like, I mean, SAP does a developer survey and ASUG does surveys and that kind of stuff. So this is a different vendor doing a different survey. And I think the reason it lights up my brain is 2 things. One is that this is about data productivity. And like, even if you think that like the latest AI buzz is nothing but a hype train, even if
Mm-hmm.
you think that, data is still the core thing that drives so many thoughts and processes these days that even if generative AI was a nothing burger, data would still be a huge problem at all of the places that I either consult with
Yeah.
or we do pre-sales for, right? And so I this is a survey about the people who are staffing or who are doing the data work at these places. And it's got some interesting data. And I mean, I'm a little bit of two minds about it. So, and which retroactively I should think about our other writings about surveys, because like this place Matillion, they paid some other vendor to do the survey and write the survey. So okay, that's sort of a nod toward objectiveness, right? But I
Mm.
mean, that other vendor is getting paid to do a survey for this vendor, that, and of course it's gonna like kind of be spun and look good toward them,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like there's
Here,
still
here.
reason
Yeah. Sorry.
still reason to be skeptical of what you see in this stuff, you know what I mean? And like so so and you look at things like this. So just, I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but like look at this bit here. 84% of respondents describe the volume of their workloads as exceeding their capacity. I kind of think that for most of my career, I would have probably said my workload exceeds my capacity, right? There's always
Yeah.
more to do. And there's always people banging on your door, right?
Yeah.
I would wonder, like, this in isolation, this is like, whoa, 84% of these data people think that their workload exceeds their capacity. But like, what about the rest of the world? Like, what do other people think about that same thing? Is this
Yeah.
an outlier or not? Right?
Yeah.
And even saying like 90% reported increase in their workload. Yeah. Hey guys, me too. Right? Like the same story for me, and I don't do this job.
Yeah.
So um so I'm gonna kind of dive in and look more at this stuff because, like I said, I'm still of two minds. The data pipeline is hugely important these days, AI or not. But like, cast maybe a healthy skepticism at what a vendor might be saying about this stuff too, right? But
Yeah.
who knows? It might be interesting. So I'm gonna take a
It's
deeper look at that.
it's a kind of strange term, data productivity, but now that you've described it, it sounds more like it's productivity of the data teams.
Yeah,
So
that is.
I
I mean,
think,
that is what it
yeah,
is. It's
yeah,
a survey of data
it's
experts, right?
rather,
So
yeah,
it's very. I mean, yeah. So so really for me to be like perfectly not perfectly, but for me to be a better analyst of what this is, I got to kind of look at, well, what are these guys, what is this vendor's
yeah. What
products,
are they selling?
right?
Yeah,
What are they selling in order to be sort of generating a story about this stuff? Again, Matillion, this is not to be like haters. This is just to be like,
yeah.
okay, what's the deal,
The
right?
fact checking mission. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So it could be interesting, could be a shakedown, I don't
yeah.
know. Could be weird.
It's always funny to see those surveys that are like, oh, here is a survey that we sponsored and
Yeah.
that has questions to pretty much confirm what we are telling you.
Yeah.
And 800 people agreed with us.
Right.
84% of them. Okay, nice.
Great. And right, and how
Yeah,
easy would it be, even if you found the most objective like survey report partner to do
yeah,
this work, like you could simply not publish what they give you if
yeah,
it doesn't agree with your whatever, and you
yeah.
just go find another one and do that, right? So it's like I gotta kind of keep two hats on when I look at this.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we talked about SAP developer survey last year, but the difference here is that they are sharing the full results. It was literally, here
Yeah.
was a question we asked, and here is analysis of responses. I think that's much more valuable than just, oh, hey, look, we pick random
Yeah.
metrics. We don't even know what the question was. How
So
was
yeah,
it
so
stated?
there
Yeah.
is a PDF that I downloaded for that might have
Oh, sweet,
more,
cool.
but again, it's got to be, you got to keep a skeptical eye on
Yeah,
all this stuff.
yeah,
So yeah.
nice.
So there's that. I think once or twice I've gone and looked at SAP.io startups,
Oh,
and what I'm looking to do this time, and what I kind of started doing was they have a portfolio listing of what's on the SAP store, and like it can be kind of an interesting exercise to search the listings that they have in this portfolio thing for what their portfolio is kind of up to these days, right? So just as a brief start, I started searching for various terms in this list.
Oh my
I only got
God.
3 hits on blockchain. So,
Blockchain just
and there's
doesn't
like
die.
there's 100 or 200 like startups in this thing, so there's a
Mhm.
lot. And there's only 3 of them that say blockchain, one of them that says ledger. 16 of them have
Yeah.
sustainable somewhere in the
Of
search.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. Everyone
And then you get to
has.
the huge ones like between analytics, AI, and intelligent, you're getting like
Yeah.
half of them are that. 113 of them say cloud,
Mm.
but that's
Of
like,
course.
yeah, but I mean, and the other thing too is that I discovered that the search also searches which SAP products they're meant to integrate with
Oh, okay.
too.
Yeah.
So it's like I got to kind of unpack it a little bit right before I go
Mm.
nuts. But if I just expand this view more thing to the whole list and then I just search I just control F the page for I
Mhm.
still get like 20 hits. There's 20 of these things that have AI in this little tiny little blurb right here
Yeah. Even in
about
the
that
name,
stuff.
like that AI Ola, whatever that is.
Yeah. So it's like, and here you can see it, like the search searches these things, but like if the description says AI, like they're on the latest bandwagon for
Yeah.
this stuff, right? So
And
I'll be curious to see, and maybe there'll be an interesting one out there. But like it starts to get like if you go in and look at this, I get a little bit kind of blurry eyed and cross eyed as I look at all these things because there's a lot of just like analytics on blech kind of stuff, right? That doesn't have much like I don't know. Maybe it's my techie thing coming out, but I don't see it as necessarily like, wow, this really pushes the whatever forward. It's just it charts for this thing, right? I don't know.
yeah.
It just sure
Well,
it's more than that, but like I
not so
have this.
not so crap on the startups, but I think names and logos have seem like AI generated.
I
To
know,
be
right?
honest, that first one, I just can't take my eyes off it. Like, what the heck of a name is that? Like, T222. What
I
is
think
that
it's
name? How do you
I think it's
pronounce
supposed to
it?
be 42.
Oh, 40. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, see, but
Forty.
like I think that
Jeez
doesn't work
Louise.
for I mean,
40. Oh
you just
my
proved that that doesn't
goodness.
work,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah,
should be
it's like
memorable and
it's for
easy.
tutu or whatever.
But you're looking at
Maybe
it like for
maybe
tutu
reconsider.
is it for
Yeah,
ballerinas like for tutu?
exactly. Is this like
Yeah.
SAP for entertainment industry? I don't know.
And then the other
My
side of it is that like
goodness.
there's a bunch of them that just have AI like
AI,
in the
yeah.
name.
AI
AI link,
like
Iola,
and random
AI evidence. I
combination
don't know what
of
that is.
characters.
Yeah.
AI boo. Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. Yeah.
So there's cool stuff to see here, and I'll probably just kind of be, I'll probably do something like this, like just for a search terms of this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
because I think that says something about
Yeah.
all these things. It's just what,
Comedy gold.
yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thing I've been thinking about too is, and I don't have an angle, so I don't know if I'll write about it necessarily, but like June is Pride Month, right?
Hmm.
And like I would like to show my support 100% for anything Pride related. Like
Yep.
I'm all in. LGBTQ, like I'm in your corner for sure. But I don't want to do it just to be doing it,
Yeah.
right? So
Like
I'm like
pride washing.
yeah, I don't want to be like slapping a rainbow sticker on myself just to be, you know, another person just doing that. Like I want to say something and I don't know whether I have something to say about it. So if I have something to say that connects to like tech and enterprise and pride, I'll do that. But if I can't draw a valid connection there, I'll just leave it on the video and say, "Hey, happy Pride, everyone." There you go.
Yep.
Um, but that's me. I'm there. I think I have anything else. No, that's me. That's my stuff. Sharing over. I hereby pass the digital ball to you.
Pass the digital baton. All right, so let me now share my screen and we will look at my story. So I also have just 3 subjects, so no bonus content, sorry, in this round. My first subject is general, I would say, SAP BTP extensibility. So SAP has come out again with relatively new marketing
Mm,
messaging, they are using the term extensibility, which I think might have confused especially some of the veterans,
yeah.
maybe because extensibility was
Yep.
already used in SAP since many, many years,
Yep.
and it meant very specific things.
Yeah.
So now people look at it and they see SAP BTP extensibility subject and they're like, is this like about adding custom fields to database tables? Like
Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
those tables in Boppies? Is that what it is? Because that's what extensibility
Yeah.
meant for many years. And now suddenly like whoosh, it appears in it's not completely different context, but the meaning has changed the whole lot from what it was in
Yeah.
ABAP before. And also SAP BTP is somehow involved. Of course, SAP is not making it easier for everyone by dragging BTP into every single name. So I found there is this very strange place which is called SAP Extensibility Explorer. It's specifically for S/4HANA Cloud, but I think
Yeah.
what SAP talks about that extensibility, that's actually also kind of cloud readiness related. So I would say that folks who are working with on-premise systems, for them, the old extensibility and the old ways to do things in SAP that you need to do, they're still there. Obviously, don't do completely silly stuff like core modifications and
Yeah.
explicit enhancement, but the rest of it is still there. There isn't really a huge change for you for now.
Mm,
Looking kind of into future, it's changing, it's different, but I just wanted to at least bring some clarity into this big like extensibility umbrella that seems to be going on right
yeah.
now. So even here, and I've seen the same kind of structure in other documents and help documents in other SAP presentations. There is that key user extensibility, developer side by side. So I might dive in just one sentence deeper into what each one of
This
them means, and yeah, which is relevant.
this is a really good one. I think, if, Yelena, if I zoom out and think about this stuff in terms of just like our engagement, our newsletter stuff, like this is just like meat on the bone for a lot of the folks who read our newsletter, and is a perfect thing. And I think this will get a ton of attention and clicks, just like people
With
like, because I have talked about this with folks. I have gone through and read through this and tried to sort of stuff it in my brain, and it's still kind of floaty a little bit in my head. But this is a good one. I'm glad you're talking about this too. And look at that. Isn't that weird that, like, look at the URL there?
yeah, I was just gonna
The
say like
what's what's is
what
like,
they
is this
like
just a like
SAP
Cloud
couldn't
Foundry I mean,
spurgeon domain
yeah,
name for
yeah. I saw that on Twitter somewhere and I was like, look at that
yeah.
URL. Yeah.
And does it mean
Um,
that it's going away or like what's the deal like
yeah,
with all of this? It's
yeah.
so bizarre. And honestly, I poked around. This is such a weird place. It's super weird. I thought it would be more helpful like API Hub, which is I think really has
I'm
really some great content. But when I clicked into it, I
you,
was lost. All
yeah.
right, so moving on, my second subject is it's a rather old article that I kind of put into my write about it sometime pile, and
Oh,
I
sure.
think it's
Yeah.
it's finally its turn arrived where I gathered enough thoughts on this subject. So it is a very interesting interview. It's published by ASAG. It is with SAP's new. He was new at the time
Yeah.
chief design officer. So I don't want to butcher his name, but I hope it's Erin Bomik. He used to
Hmm.
work at IBM, and I worked at IBM too, so I might be just very slightly biased. I think IBM's design was one of the really things that IBM did really well. Even right now, if you go to IBM's, for example, website, and I know he's more about product like UI design, but even like IBM's presentations, website, even internal ones, always
Yeah.
had really crisp, nice, like simple designs that I would love to see in enterprise software like everywhere, especially
Yeah.
for large companies. It shows you it's possible to be a very large company and still do a great job in design. So one of the specific points that I want to write about and that he talks about is customers versus users. And I'm really really glad that he is there at SAP right now. And I hope that there are people who will listen to what his opinions on that, because I think SAP has been focusing a lot on customers and maybe not enough on users. I really would like to see, though, what are actual channels and how SAP would like to make a change there. Because, and we have written about this a lot, we've written about SAP Influence website. Those channels to give feedback to SAP, they're still pretty restrictive, I would say, not hugely open. So if SAP is, let's say, serious about getting feedback from actual users of their software, which are people who are doing their jobs, like running SafeGUI transactions or whatever, Fiori apps, and not necessarily the ones who making purchasing decisions or installation decisions on SAP products. I'm curious how SAP plans to get that feedback, really. And user groups can help here to some extent, but then again, even I would say, even in the user group meetings, not necessarily people who are doing the actual transaction, actual business users are present. So I'm not sure if they're part of that community either. It seems like there is a huge group of SAP actual users that may not even be really represented anywhere. So so that's some.
So I
have
I have two reflections. One, real quick, I met this guy at Sapphire last year, and I'm sure he doesn't remember me. I mean, he must have met 1,000 billion people that day, but like, he seems like a really cool guy and really smart and sharp. So I'm glad to see that I'm gonna go look at this too. The second thing is, scroll up just a little bit. The title of the piece is "Calls from Our ASIC Feedback," and I have a response to that, or not a response. It triggers something in my brain, and it doesn't trigger anything necessarily about this design stuff in particular. But what it does trigger is, I mean, everyone knows, and especially you and I know, that there's a tech. ASUG is doing a tech conference this fall to follow SAP TechEd. And I think it's an audience that ASUG has not quite conquered as much as the sort of the techie crowd. And this ASUG feedback point here makes me kind of think that for ASUG and SAP, really, that fall techie conference, Tech Connect, I think it's called, is actually a really good chance for another round for a fresh take on both ASUG gathering and SAP receiving feedback, because it'll be a different channel than either of those have really touched on a ton. Right? Because ASUG has maybe had somewhat less of a focus on the techie folks before, and then sort of growing up and maturing into that space, which I think, of course, is exciting anyway, will also be a good way to have a different spin on ASUG gathering and feeding feedback to SAP itself about stuff. So that, I think that'll be good from that perspective too.
Yeah. I mean, that's that event. I'm really looking forward to it. And like you said, it's an audience that was not really involved with ASUG much, and I'm glad that this is changing. And I just hope, I just hope that feedback is not just given but received as well. That's an important part. All right, so my third subject is, there was a series of articles in the Genomica about I think it's pronounced MAC, probably some kind of consortium of sorts. It's MAC Alliance. It's very nebulous entity that let me see, how can I put it simply? So it's a first of all, MAC stands for Microservices, APIs, or other APIs first, and Cloud Native SaaS and Headless approach. So it's essentially a group of people, I would say, representing many many big players in IT and industry. And I guess their goal is to promote this type of IT architecture. There is slightly more to their work, but this was my starting point into reading about this. So Phil Wainwright from the Genomica shared series of posts from Mac2 was their conference just recently. We have written about microservices and APIs before, obviously. Again, it's not something that might have some kind of immediate meaning or some kind of action to do for SAP professionals, but I think it's interesting that such groups and alliances emerge. I'm kind of curious what these people are up to. They have been around for a few years, but I've not heard of it
What are
before.
you guys doing?
Yeah, before, like, what are they doing? And just like you, so I went to their website. Let me see. I don't think there is a link here. Yeah, I don't have it here either, but they do have some kind of Mac like .org or something. If you start from their conference, you can find, yeah, Mac Alliance. That's their main website. Let's see. Right, sorry. This is wanted to get to their main site. There you go. So that's their website. That's an event part, and I was curious about this resources piece. I was mostly wondering if there are any kind of learning content that they're sharing or anything like that. Unfortunately, I haven't quite found the whole lot of information here. So again, my kind of head scratching continued, like, well, what are you guys doing there? Just kind of gathering together, I guess, having a bunch of drinks and just good time, which is fine. In research, it's funny that you were talking about research from another company before, and it's kind of the same thing here. They are sharing some research results, and overwhelmingly 87% of the
Oh my God.
surveyed people agree with whatever they were surveyed about, and it's kind of pretty thin, I would say. So I looked at it like, I mean, it's cool, but I'm not really sure it tells me anything. So yeah, I will also take a look maybe further at their downloads and see if there is any more information available. Oh, interesting part here, they are doing Mac certification. So this is
really?
for the actual software vendors who want to get Mac certified. There are pretty strict requirements about all the vendor products to be Mac compliant. So you have to use microservices, whatever, APIs, etc., in all of your products. So I guess that leaves outside of this jurisdiction all the big enterprise software players. So yeah, again, some names are interesting. Like Stripe was there. For example, that they're usually on kind of forefront of technology. So kind of interesting thing, I think, to keep maybe on your radar and see where this is actually going. So this is probably going to be pretty short story, just like, hey guys, like, this is out there, and yeah, check out what these people are up to, and maybe go to their next conference if you like. So yeah, something to keep your eye on for everyone in enterprise software, and also a good chance to highlight our previous stories on microservices and APIs.
Yeah.
All right, so that is all for me. I think that's, yeah. So we nailed it as usual.
Yeah, stuck the landing. I expect this to go viral any minute, and then our IPO, and we're out the door, right? Then we're off to the Hamptons. So thanks everyone for tuning in to the oh shoot, what do we call it?
Nerdletter talk.
Nerdletter talk.
Okay.
I kept
I'm gonna
saying
make new backgrounds for us.
Nerdletter. We need to make a new background because I keep thinking, my brain kept saying Nerdcast letter. That doesn't make any sense. What is this? Nerdletter talk. Thank you for watching the Nerdletter talk, and we will see you soon in other videos and stuff. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.